Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today with a news update for The Outer Worlds. Now this won't be our traditional news update focusing on mechanics or gameplay. Instead we're talking about quality control today, but I'll get into why that's just as important. Now this brand new information is courtesy of gamingbolt.com, who I will have linked in the description down below if you'd like to read the article for yourself. It is titled, Obsidian Praises Private Division's QA Handling. Now let's get right into it. It begins, according to directors Tim Cain and Leonard Boyarsky, Private Division has been wonderful and seems to understand what Obsidian is trying to make. The Pillars of Eternity developer has been rather infamous for the bugs and issues that plague its titles upon launch. However, it seems Private Division's testing department will help minimize the same for The Outer Worlds. Yes, while Obsidian makes wonderful games full of branching options and choices that we can make, they are not impervious to mistakes or bugs. It seems the goal with The Outer Worlds is to include that well-known amount of options in an Obsidian game without the bugs to boot. Now this is stuff that was fixed over time. We can think of New Vegas as the most popular example. There were the mods that patched out all the bugs. There were also just patches in general after launch that looked to fix a lot of the game's issues. The article continues onwards, speaking to Edge magazine in its February 2018 issue, which was a typo, I did double check, it's supposed to say 2019. Cain said, "They've been wonderful. Everybody there understands what we're trying to make and they help us do that. They have this QA team who we've been sending game drops to along with test planets because the game has lots of ways you can play it, and they've been really good at testing all the different paths and coming back and telling us what worked and what did not." Boyarsky further adds, "It's been great. Sometimes when you're dealing with third parties and other publishers, they see something in your game that's not the game you're making and they want to take a different direction. But Private Division really seemed to grasp what we wanted to do and we're very excited about it." Now you may be wondering, why am I focusing on an article that's not really talking about the gameplay of The Outer Worlds, but rather its quality control? Personally, I believe that QA is one of the most underappreciated aspects of game development out there. Yes, we have everyone who works incredibly hard in the games industry, programmers, level designers, environmental artists, the list goes on. There's so much that goes into game development, but often we do not talk about the people who slave endlessly over in the QA department, making sure that everything actually works and that the bugs are stomped out. We've seen a recent example of when QA isn't that good, Fallout 76, and then we've seen games that come out in a perfectly fine state like a God of War, which is where QA is excellent because there is so much to account for with combat encounters, open world design, how a player tackles the world. There is so much that goes into QA that I don't think a lot of folks consider. So seeing that there is this emphasis for that with The Outer Worlds and that there is a good relationship in place is very important to the success of this title. We can have a great game underneath the layers and layers of bugs, but still those bugs will always get in the way. If you can get that out of the way, then all you have is an amazing product to enjoy. So let me get into why I found this also incredibly important to highlight. There are some key quotes there to me. Most notably to me is Cain, where he says that everyone there has been wonderful and they understand what game they're trying to make and they help them do that. Now, often we hear the stories of publishers who really intervene with design decisions and try to direct game developers in a way that would make them more money. But what we're seeing here is a hands-off sort of approach from Private Division, where they're saying, Obsidian, you've got this vision, you're going to send us, like they said, game drops of test planets on certain little aspects of the game. We'll give you our feedback and you just do with it what you want. The other reason this is important to highlight is because there was the initial issue upon the announcement of Obsidian teaming up with Private Division that folks were worried, since Private Division was a part of 2K, that maybe there would be microtransactions in The Outer Worlds or that there would be creative restrictions put on Obsidian, but they were quick to stomp out initially, way before the game was even announced, that there would be microtransactions in their next game.
Hello everyone, I'm Mikey Dowling, the PR manager here at Obsidian Entertainment, and I'm here with Leonard Boyarsky and Tim Cain to ask them a very important question that you have been asking us since yesterday. So Leonard, are we going to have microtransactions in the game?
Nope.
And Tim, how about loot crates?
Nope.
Awesome. Thank you guys.
And now it's very nice to see also that there aren't creative restrictions being put on Obsidian, and really Private Division is just letting them do their thing and get the job done. The other notable quote to me is where Boyarsky adds that it's been great, and sometimes when dealing with third parties and other publishers, they see something in your game that's not the game you're making and they want to take it a different direction. Now, Obsidian has worked with multiple publishers in the past, so I did think to myself about the most familiar partnership, which was Obsidian and Bethesda working together on New Vegas. Now, I've had the chance to talk to multiple developers from Obsidian's team who did work on Fallout New Vegas, most notably Chris Avalone, who I did have on the Ham Radio podcast, and I remember him emphasizing that the time frame that they were given to make Fallout New Vegas never restricted them in a sense where they got everything they wanted to in the game. But I also always wondered, as humans, if there was ever a retrospective effect to Fallout New Vegas where they looked back sometimes and said, man, if we had like another year, because the game was made in a year and a half, if they had a little more time, could they have added X, Y, or Z? That's always a question that comes to my mind. Just as humans in general, you wonder about the what ifs in life. Point being though, and maybe I am reading too much between the lines here, is I wonder if possibly Bethesda was one of those partners that saw the game they were making and tried to take it in a different direction. But it's also possible it's not just Bethesda. We do have Obsidian, who worked with Sega to publish Alpha Protocol. Now, I know Sega has improved in a lot of ways currently, but I remember back then that was kind of during the dark ages of Sega, where they were trying to figure out what the hell to do with Sonic. They didn't really have the best public image, so it could also be a reference to them, who didn't allow much creative control when it came to Alpha Protocol. Quite honestly, I feel that they are pointing the finger a bit at Sega, because when you look at some of the history between Obsidian and Sega, they were in business together for a while, but Sega did can Obsidian's Aliens title, and furthermore, there were some complications with the Alpha Protocol IP, which in an article talking about the pitch for an Alpha Protocol 2 to Sega, here's what was said. Unfortunately, the team is unable to move ahead on development of any potential sequel without the approval and backing of Sega, which owns the IP, but that situation was almost very different. Obsidian was originally going to own the Alpha Protocol IP, but the company's CEO, Fergus Urquhart, explained that the unexpected cancellation of a Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs spin-off set to be published by Disney forced the team to sign a contract relinquishing control to Sega. A very odd news piece there. I actually heard nothing about Obsidian working on a Snow White game. But in 2017, there was an expression from Obsidian with their willingness to work together with Sega yet again, because there was also the talk of Sega displaying a presentation on their road to 2020. And in the presentation, the publisher notably revealed its plans to revive dormant IP, specifically the revival of major IP. What IPs exactly this refers to, well, that's where it gets a bit fuzzy. It could be referring to Sonic, Jet Set Radio, Bad Company Heroes, Crazy Taxi, Phantasy Star, Sega GT, Shenmue, Super Monkey Ball, Virtua Fighter, Alpha Protocol, and more. The key is, what does Sega mean by major IP, and what does exactly it mean by revival, because all of the above mentioned IP could use a revival, I believe, out of all those Jet Set Radio.
I'm hijacking the airways and terrorizing you with tunes, because we're going to turn these dirty streets into one big dance party. Jet Set Radio!
But we did see legitimately Shenmue get a revival. We know the third entry is coming. That's been announced for years, but it also had the first and second games of those series re-released. Like I said though, Obsidian expressed that interest and said, you don't say. What if ... question mark, as in pretty much what if we brought back Alpha Protocol. Like I said, that was in 2017, so about a year and a half ago at this point in time of me recording it. But regardless of the fact, there was that expression of willingness to work with them. So who knows if Obsidian was really saying that working with Sega was tough, but all I do remember reading was that the production cycle for Alpha Protocol wasn't the best. There's also the possibility that Obsidian's just going based off stories of friends of theirs in other companies and they never really experienced it themselves. Like I said, I don't want to read too much between the lines here. It's just a really interesting read to me, because it's good to see that there is a healthy relationship between the publisher and the developer, and that there is no creative restrictions, where at the end of the day, the success of this game really banks on how Obsidian crafts it. So we shall see in due time. 2019 is the year that The Outer Worlds is to launch. I can't wait to see more. Now, just in case Obsidian is watching, I need to mention, even if they already know, that we will take a product with 10 less hours of content if it means that it's working fine and that what is there, even if it's just 20 hours, is good quality content. It's always the priority. Please always remember that, Obsidian. But anyway, I hope this satiates the thirst for some of you out there for the Outer Worlds content, because it's been quite dry since that announcement at the Game Awards. Anyway, I'd love to hear all of your thoughts on this in the comments down below. Do fire away, ladies and gentlemen. Other than that, follow me on Twitter, like me on Facebook. Those links are in the description down below, along with my Patreon. Do consider supporting that, as it fuels all the content I create here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.